Dear students, welcome to class 9th. This is the first session of physics class. Today I am going to take up the first chapter, motion. While listening, you can note down the notes also. You keep ready the pen and paper and note down. Otherwise also, whenever you are viewing the video second time, at that time also you can note down. I am going to give the notes also. Instead of using the blackboard, I am using the examination pad and white papers to give the notes. From that notes you can prepare the classwork copy. Instead of the blackboard, I am using this notes here, just that white papers I am using. Please, all of you, listen carefully. This is the first session I am taking up the motion for class 9th physics. Okay. Now I am going to start the notes. Listen carefully. Simultaneously notes also will come and my voice also will be visible to you clearly. First, I am going to give the definition of the motion. Before going to give the definition of the motion, I'd like to tell you some examples of the motion in your daily life. That is, in your daily life, you might have seen many times birds flying, fish swimming, vehicles going on the road, running on the road, aeroplane flying in the air, like that. Most of the things are in motion. In physics, the motion is a very important thing. In mechanics, we are going to learn some basic concepts of the motion in 9th class, whereas in 11th class, more clearly you will learn it. Okay. Now, I am going to give the definition of the motion first. Just I'll dictate it and simultaneously I'll write it on the paper. Just you see it, you can write it also. Now, a body is said to be a body is said to be in motion a body is said to be in motion if it changes its position with respect to a fixed point or surroundings. I repeat this definition just to see, once again you see carefully. A body is said to be in motion if it changes its position with respect to a fixed point or surroundings. Now, I'd like to give one example and I'll explain you how this motion can be explained with example. You know very well, the best example is a car moving on the road. A car moving on the road. It is one of the examples, best examples of the motion. You know very well, second example is a very clear and very easy one I can give, that a planet revolving around the sun. Like this, you can give many examples for the motion. Here, you have to remember one thing, that to describe the motion, to define the motion, the important points. What are the important points? First thing, the object, whether it is changing the position or not, with respect to a fixed points or surroundings. You have to remember, fixed point is also important, surroundings also important. We are going to see after some time why that is important. Now, suppose if a body is not changing its position, what to call? With respect to surroundings, if the body is not changing its position, then what to call? That is just opposite of the motion, we can say that we call it as a rest. You see, I give the definition of the rest. It is a very simple thing. It is a very simple thing that a body is said to be in state of rest. Instead of saying motion, we'll say state of rest. If it do not change, we have to write opposite manner, its position with respect to a fixed point or surroundings. I am writing it on the paper. You can note down. You see, a body is said to be at rest, not in motion. In English language, we will say at rest if it does not change its position with respect to a fixed point or surroundings. Just you see the difference between these two definitions, simple difference. Here I'll underline and tell you, here in motion changes its position, at rest does not change its position. That's only, that much only. However, you have to remember surroundings also important. Now we are going to see the examples of this rest. That is, a car parked by the side of the road. By the side of road. Here you see, car is parked. You know very well, car is parked means car is not moving. Second example, we can say electrical pole erected by the side of the road. By the side of the road. I'd like to give one more best example which you see in your daily classrooms. That is a projector fixed to the roof in your classroom. In your classroom. These are the three examples I have given now for the what you call motion and rest. Okay. Now you see here the definition of the motion and rest I have given. you might have understood the definition of motion and also rest, and also the difference between the motion and rest. My dear students, you have to see the change of position is taking place or not, and whether it is compared with the fixed one and surrounding one or not. Just I'll tell you here for the sake of your understanding that a car moving on the road, first example, you see the position of the car is changing again and again with respect to the trees, electrical poles, whatever it is, fixed positions, whichever are there. And in the same way, a planet revolving around the sun. Here, I am comparing the motion of the planet with respect to the sun. Sun is taken as a reference point, sun is taken as a fixed point, like that. Whereas if you are coming to the rest, I have taken the example car parked by the side of the road. Here road is taken as fixed point or surroundings, whatever you call, and car which is at parked means not moving, very well, understand. So I can say that as this car is not changing its position with respect to surroundings, it is also called rest. At the same time, electrical pole erected by the side of the road or anywhere, any place, very well, they don't move. If they don't move with respect to the surroundings, we say that they are at the rest. Now, last and best example I can give is that a projector which is fixed to the roof of your classroom. You might have seen many classrooms nowadays, projectors are there, which are fixed to the roof. They are at rest with respect to your classroom, walls of the classroom, board of the classroom, or something like that. So finally, I'd like to tell you, motion and rest, two things are important: whether object is changing its position or not, and whether it surroundings, is it compared to the surroundings or not. Because depending on the surroundings, this motion, object is in motion or at rest, it depends on the surroundings also. I am going to give one example to you. Just you remember that just now I am telling that projector is fixed with respect to your classroom. But you remember, if surroundings changes, projector is not at rest. For example, you know very well, earth is revolving around the sun. Along the earth, India is also revolving, Hyderabad is also revolving, Gachibowli is also revolving, and along with the Gachibowli, your classroom is also revolving around the sun. I mean to say, along with the classroom, your projector is also revolving around the sun. So now you see, projector is revolving around the sun. Here surroundings are a point, fixed point, I am taking it as a sun. Therefore we can say that projector is changing its position with respect to sun. Therefore we can say that projector is in motion with respect to the sun. But the same projector, just now I explained, is at rest with respect to your classroom walls. I think you are able to understand. I mean to say that surroundings plays very important role to decide whether object is at rest or object is in motion. Okay. Now, I can say that motion and rest are comparable things. I mean to say, you have to note down that motion and rest are relative, they are not absolute. So I can say one thing, that motion and rest are relative, means they are to be comparable. They are relative, not absolute. not absolute. That you have to remember. I mean to say, only on comparison only we can tell whether body is at rest or in motion. I'll give one beautiful example. All of you listen carefully. Let us say that there are three friends A, B, C. A and B are going to some other place by train, whereas C is standing on the platform, want to say goodbye or bye bye to A and B. A and B are sitting in the train. Now train has not started moving. C is outside of the train near the window of the train and chatting with them. When train has not started, we can say that train is not moving. A is at rest with B and also B is at rest with A. At the same time, A is at rest with B with respect to C and B is at rest with respect to C. Simply we can say that all are at rest with respect to each other. Here I am comparing with one another A, B, C only. I am not taking any other surroundings, any trains, any moving trains and all those things. A, B, C. Only three I am taking. Now, let us see that second situation in which train has started moving. Train has started moving. The person, that is C, on the platform just moved away from the train to a safe position, has waved his hand to say bye bye and tata. Now train is moving, you remember. Now I'd like to ask I'd like to ask you a question. You think yourself and decide whether C is at rest or in motion. At the same time, you decide yourself whether A is at rest with respect to B or in motion. At the same time, you decide B is at rest or in motion with respect to A. At the same time, you decide A and B are at rest or in motion with respect to C. I think you have got the answer. However, I'll tell you the answer. Just now I told you that train has started moving. Now let us see the position of A and B. See, A and B are sitting in the train. Distance between them is not increasing. If we compare A with respect to B, B is a fixed point here. A is at the same position with respect to B. So I can say that A is at rest with respect to B. But you remember, if he looks outside of the window, he will find out that C is going back. I mean to say move back like that. Meaning is that with respect to C, A is in motion. In the same way, with respect to C, B is in motion. But remember, A and B are rest to each other. Here I'd like to tell you that rest or motion are relative, not absolute. Surroundings, fixed points and all those things are important to decide about the motion or rest. In 11th class, you are going to learn more and more clearly about this motion, rest and all those things. Now, next, I'd like to take up the scalar quantity and vector quantity. Before that, I'd like to tell you what are quantities. Generally, we will say physical quantities. That is, physical quantities are the quantities which are measurable. The quantities which can be measured are called physical quantities, like height, weight, mass, velocity, acceleration, force. All such things are called physical quantities. But very interestingly, some physical quantities require the direction for their specification. Some physical quantity do not require direction for their specification. For example, mass. Mass do not require any direction for its specification. Therefore, we call it as a scalar quantity. I'll give the definition of the scalar quantity after some time. At the same time, weight, without direction we cannot describe completely. So, weight, direction is towards the center of the earth. So, it has the direction. When it has the direction, we can say that it is a vector quantity. I mean to say that two types of the quantities are there. See the notes. I tell you here now. Now, I will tell you. First one, scalar quantity. What is scalar quantity? The quantity, just I am writing it here on the board. Scalar quantity. The quantity which do not require direction for its specification are called scalar quantities. I have forgotten to tell you one thing here. They require magnitude, scalar quantity, the quantity which require only magnitude beta. Just I forgot it right here. Which require only magnitude and which do not require direction for its specification are called scalar quantities. I repeat the sentence and I will give the example also. The quantity which require only magnitude and do not require any direction for its specification are called scalar quantities. What I would like to tell you is that the quantities which require only magnitude. For example, just now I told you mass. Mass 50 kg. Mass 50 kg do not require any direction for its specification. Whereas weight will say that 50 kg weight. Unit also will change. We are going to learn this one in future classes, or it can be expressed in terms of the Newton also. That I will explain you in the next classes, future classes. But remember, weight will have its direction. For example, 50 kg weight will say, or 50 kilogram force will say, or 500 Newton will say. That one will have the direction that is towards the center of the earth. I mean to say, mass do not require any direction, therefore it is a scalar quantity. Weight requires a direction, therefore it is a vector quantity. However, I will give some more examples. I will write the examples here for the what you call these scalar quantities. Examples I am writing. Now, number one is mass, then length, then we will say here speed, distance, many things we can give, many things which do not require the direction. We are going to see after few classes, whenever we learn the quantity, immediately we will say whether that is a vector quantity or scalar quantity. In the 11th class and the 12th class, we are going to see like that. Now, I will give the definition of the vector quantity now. Vector quantity. You see that scalar quantity, vector quantity, small change we require here. I will show this definition of the first scalar quantity and I will tell you what is the thing which is required. Just now I told you that vector quantity specification, for specification direction is required. So, the quantity which requires magnitude and as well as the direction for its complete specification are called vector quantities. So I am writing that one. You see here, the quantity which require magnitude and as well as direction for its specification are called vector quantities. Vector quantities. Example, I tell you here: velocity, acceleration, force, etc. Okay, these are the vector quantities because this velocity requires the direction and also magnitude. This acceleration requires the direction as well as the magnitude. This force also will have the direction and as well as the magnitude. See, speed comes under scalar quantity, whereas velocity comes under vector quantity. We are going to see this difference between the speed and velocity by learning their definitions and other particulars about the speed and velocity. At that time, I will explain you clearly what is why it is speed is scalar quantity, why velocity is a vector quantity, and all those things. Now, dear students, now I'd like to conclude today's session. In this session, let us recall what we have learned. In the next class, you have to come with the preparation of these topics because the next session will depend on the basic concepts of this session which we have learned today. Just you see here, first we have learnt the motion, definition of the motion, examples, definition of the rest, examples, and motion and rest are relative, not absolute we have learnt. Then after we have learnt scalar quantity, its definition and examples, vector quantity and definition and some examples. After this session, you have to come with proper preparation to the next session. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.